Got a great quote from you. You've been quoted as saying, excess wealth can prove to be a heavy burden on your soul. Lighten the load. Give back. The universe will smile back at you. Can you elaborate for us on the term excess wealth? And then secondly, can you describe that heavy burden? What did that mean to you?
Well, the term excess wealth came from Andrew Carnegie, the great philanthropist of the 19th century. And I've read, he wrote a paper called The Gospel of Wealth, which still makes for very interesting reading today. And basically his philosophy was, he was one of the richest men in America. And his basic philosophy was that excess wealth is that amount of money beyond what you need to take care of your own needs and the needs of your family. And his view was that excess wealth should be used for the good of society. And more importantly, that it should be deployed during someone's lifetime. Because you are the custodian, you're the one that created that wealth, you're the custodian of that wealth, and you best know how to deploy it in a way that is most effective. And that's how I read, his teachings on that. And that's what inspired me, and that's the way that I conduct my life, is that I look at excess wealth. So excess wealth can be different things to different people. Everybody has different needs in terms of what they need to spend from their wealth and to take care of their family and make sure that everything's taken care of. But you think about some of the wealth today, I mean, it's really excess. I mean, there are some, wealth is becoming very concentrated now in very few hands. And so excess wealth to a billionaire, have you ever thought about, thought about how would you spend $1 billion? And you should sit down and try and do that, and get a piece of paper and write down how you would spend $1 billion. And I promise you, after you've bought your mansion and your second home and your third home and your plane and your yacht and your art and your jewelry and whatever else, there's a lot left over. A lot, and then put a bunch aside for your kids, whatever you need to do. There's still a lot left over, and you have so many billionaires in the world. And so my view is that excess wealth is an illusion if you just let it sit there. It doesn't really impact your happiness. It doesn't make you immortal. It doesn't change anything. It's just this thing that you think you have. And so I look at excess wealth as something that you should use to better society. On the second part of your question, you talked about the burden.
Yes.
This is an interesting thing that I've learned just watching myself evolve in my own behavior. And I know a lot of wealthy people, and I've watched a lot of people and the way they behave when they come into wealth. And what I find is that a lot of people, and I don't say everybody, but a lot of people think that excess wealth is going to buy you peace and happiness. And the reality is it doesn't. It actually doesn't. And a lot of people go through a certain pattern of behavior as they accumulate wealth. They live a hedonic lifestyle, they spend, they try and create all of this happiness. And I think a lot of them find that, well, there's something still missing. It doesn't get them that happiness. And then they make that classic mistake of thinking, well, maybe it's because I need more money. And they start to think that there's that incremental dollar is going to have an inflection point that creates happiness, and it doesn't. I think most of these people, I certainly found that the more money you make does not equate to happiness, and it doesn't certainly give you peace. So a lot of these people make that mistake of trading in that freedom the money's supposed to buy you for a bondage to the money itself, and that really doesn't give you that fulfillment. And so I've discovered that just through lots and lots of conversations and observing people and watching my own behavior. So what I found in my own life is that when I started to give, and like I said, it started slowly and it felt good, but when I really put my mind to it about 8 years ago, everything changed, and it became an amazing feeling. It became my life. And philanthropy is the biggest part of my life. I spend more time on whether it's the Clinton Giustra partnership or the crisis group, or the Boys Club here locally, or the Street to Home Foundation here locally, and things like that come up like the IRC thing, takes up most of my time. And I've never been happier than I am today. And it certainly hasn't been a kind market for my business over the last 5 years. We've been in almost a state of depression in the resource world, and whereas I used to think I had a lot of money, it's a lot less now than it used to be. But it doesn't matter, really, at the end of the day, it's, once, I know my family's needs are taken care of, and, by the way, that slide up there that showed your bucket list, don't get me wrong, it's not all about philanthropy. I live a great life. I mean, I do all those things, I pretend to be a rock star sometimes, and I vacation, I see the world, I do all these crazy adventures. There's no shortage of fun, but where the money goes is to the philanthropy, and that's given me a peace that I've never had before. Like, I never had it when I was making it. I was always stressed out about and feeling guilty, or feeling all sorts of feelings that come with a lot of wealth. And I think that when you start to give, and I've talked to many people about this, it does feel good, and the more you give, the better you feel, and that is absolutely true.
Well, if you don't mind me asking this one, is there that particular moment when you felt the universe smiling back at you?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was confusing the universe smiling at me with the bull market in the resource world. Now, this is true. For a long time, I actually believed that it was karma, that the more I gave, the more would come back. I mean, I used to go around preaching that to people. I say, by the way, the more you give, the more it comes. It's magic. It's just, but it was. I was confused with the bull market, and that did end 5 years ago. And so, but really, and again, it's the more I do, and now I've gotten into talking about it and writing about it and trying to convince people that they should consider that path. And the more I do it, the more at peace I am with my life, with everything. And the big thing that's changed, and you might not believe this, but it's absolutely true, my concern about how much money I have, I used to be concerned about my net worth. I used to think, well, geez, it's this, and maybe this year it's that, and it could be a lot less. I don't care anymore. I actually don't care, because I know I've got enough to live a very happy life, and I do live a very happy life. I have a great time. But I will never have so much that I'm going to just leave lots and lots behind without it being directed to specific causes.